All right. All right. Hello, everybody in Raider Nation. This is Captain Jack, and we are broadcasting here from the Galleon studios, the temporary Galleon studios, until the new one gets done. And I am pleased, most pleasurable experience tonight to be joined by Mr. Otis Sistrunk, the Raider great for many years in the 70s. And thank you, Otis, for joining us, all of Raider Nation here, waiting to hear from you, sir.
Hey, how you doing? Once a Raider, always a Raider.
That's great, and I'll tell you that it's awesome to have you on the program. There's probably a lot of people that hopefully we'll get some folks that'll come on board. If you have a question or comment for Otis, be sure to thanks again for joining us. And it's a common knowledge that you didn't get a chance to go to college for your football, but obviously you had enough of a presence while you were playing for the Neptunes, and that's why I learned about you even after when I lived up in Norfolk. I actually was over at the I think it was Memory Lane in the Norfolk Mall where you had the signing. So I had somebody get one of the helmets from you because unfortunately I was deployed at the time. But we knew about you in Norfolk for sure. Obviously, all Raider Nation was about you. But what was it like playing as a semi-pro before the NFL picked you up?
Well, like I tell you, they're playing the Continental League, playing in Virginia. It was real nice. Everybody was nice to me. But it was a league that guys would make in the NFL came to play in this league. And so we had some good ball players. I think over the team I played on, we had 8 or 9 guys went into the NFL without they finished playing down there.
And any of those players come straight to mind that made it from the Continental League over to the NFL?
Oh, you had Munson played with Baltimore, and you had Charlie Brandon He played up in San Diego. Then he went to Canada, and there's a few more guys. I didn't think of some of them names. Don Valerie, he went to the Rams. So it's a lot of guys got a shot. And it didn't have to be coming from the Neptune. It was coming from different teams that played in that league.
Outstanding. Now, obviously, the Rams scouted you, but you came to the attention of the Raiders, and you were signed pretty much right there and then. Played from 72 to 78, and I wanted to ask you a couple things as well. Obviously, I think the one hot topic that the Raider Nation has right now is that the Raiders signed Vontaze Burfict yesterday, and there was questions about maybe having a little bit of a locker room tiff with Antonio Brown, the gentleman they also signed. Was there any time in the Raider locker room where there was some, shall we say, teammates that didn't really get along? And if you want to get into it, that's great. But I know that all locker rooms aren't always peachy kind all the time.
No. It's I tell you, the guys I played with, we was like family. We was no better than the next guy. We was all in this together. And that's how come we call it the Raider Nation. You stick together. And we never had I don't know, we have an argument with none of the players because John denied that guys to get out there to my fighting among themselves. You have to say that for on Sunday when you get ready to play the game. So I don't remember getting an argument with nobody. And I can't, all of us was like, if we go up, there'd be 35 to 36 guys go out together.
And obviously some memorable teams for you playing for John Madden. What was it like playing on that defensive line with obviously Matusak and your other shipmates there?
Dave Rowe, John Matusak, and McCoy. I tell you, we played together. We talked a lot, and the main thing was playing right beside Field, Delaviano, or Ted Hendricks. The thing about it, we always talk to each other, and we talk football after we leave leave the game, we always spent a lot. We spent a lot of time together.
You mentioned Mike McCoy. I'm going to bring you back to an unpleasant memory, unfortunately. And that was the 77 AFC Championship game up in Mile High when Mike McCoy actually recovered a fumble that Rob Lytle had on the goal line. What was it like to be in that game knowing that you guys should have been going to the Super Bowl the very next game against the Cowboys and not going there and playing after you had won the year before?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a tough game. It's Denver beat us, but the thing about it, I think we didn't play as good as we should have been playing. And the thing about it, Denver got a good shot. I'm trying to remember the score of that game. I think it was 7-6 or something like that. I don't remember what the score was, but we should have beat Denver. Denver had a better team than us, and it's kind of tough to remember when you lost like that.
Right. Now, then I'll get obviously a better memory was the previous year in Super Bowl 11, playing out against the Minnesota Vikings, thoroughly thrashing Fran Tarkington, Sammy White, and the boys in that day out in California. Tell us about that defense. You mentioned some of the guys along the line, obviously the backers with Fu and Stork, and obviously the backfield that you guys had back there. Probably no better defensive backs than Skip and Jack and Willie and George. Obviously, I want to make sure I had everybody covered there. But playing defense, was Charlie Sumner the defensive coordinator back then as well, or was it somebody else?
No, it was the defense line coach was Tom Doms, and Zeman was the defense coordinator. But the thing about it is we treated that game just like it was any other game. We didn't go out there saying we was going to beat them. We just went out there and played football. We was ready. We had a great season, and we just played hard, worked hard. And I give a lot of credit to Gene Upshaw and Willie Brown and Jim Otto, the guys that used to sit down and talk to all the players and say, "Hey, we in this together." That's the whole deal. Being on the field together to win. One guy, Willie Brown, got an interception in the Super Bowl. He didn't win the Super Bowl. Fred Bilenikoff was the most valuable player. Kenny Stabler played a hell of a game. So the thing about it is, we played as a group and we played to win.
And like I said, a great team up there. Your offensive counterparts obviously memorable with Snake and Marv Hubbard and obviously the offensive line, the fantastic offensive line, the Hall of Famers. You said you had a great team out there, and you were that big family. But being the Raiders of the 70s, knowing that every year you were looked upon to be probably a favorite in the AFC, what's it like to go through all of those seasons that you went through with basically a chip on your shoulder and having to have those people to want to knock you off and having to deal with that?
Well, the thing about it, everybody wanted to beat the Raiders. There were some teams, if they didn't win but one game that year and they beat the Raiders, they was happy. We wasn't happy unless we won 10 to 15 games. If we weren't in the playoffs, we had a problem. Because we had some of the best coaches in the NFL. We had some of the best players in the NFL. You could go back and look how many Hall of Fames off of that offensive line. Gene Upshaw, Art Shell, Jim Otto. So, and the defense we played so hard, like Ted Hendricks, Hall of Fame. We got a lot of Hall of Famers in the NFL.
And obviously, are there any of your teammates that you think should be in the Hall of Fame that are just not quite made it yet?
It's kind of tough to say. I don't know how they picked the Hall of Fame, but we feel like, when Al Davis was still alive, he felt like all of his players should have been in the Hall of Fame. But the thing about it is you got other players that play good on other teams. They got a chance to go in the Hall of Fame, but I just feel like it's some more guys out there. I don't know who. Yes, I could tell you some of them, like Jack Tatum should have been in the Hall of Fame by now. And, so it's Danny Connors, played linebacker field. And so we only got one linebacker in the Hall of Fame. That's Ted Hendricks.
Right. And like I said, you mentioned Dan Connors, you mentioned Phil. Obviously they're under, Phil definitely under consideration. Everybody throws Cliff Branch up there as far as numbers, and obviously his numbers are on a par with both Stallworth and Lynn Swann, and he's not in there. So obviously there's some people that should be in there that aren't. Are there any particular memories of hanging out with the teammates? Like I said, what was John Matuszak like? Were all the stories about him being as wild as he is? And again, rest in peace, John. Anything that you can add about hanging out with John or Ted or anything like that off season, off games that would be interesting to us?
The only thing I used to do with John is go out to eat with him, and we used to sign autographs a lot together. But towards what his activities was, well, after he wasn't around the Raiders, I don't know. I can't say because I'm just like the fans. I go back what I heard, but I don't believe all of it was true because John worked his butt off every day he came to practice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And like John, you had a transition from being a NFL player to going over into Hollywood. Was John instrumental in that, or who was instrumental in getting you some movies down in Hollywood?
Well, I think once you win the Super Bowl, you always get a call. They try to pick one of the players or two of the players that go. And then when I got a call to do car wash, and then I got a call from a guy out in I think it was Utah, Montana, to do Western out there. So you didn't get those calls, and during this time you go and try to do the best you can, and sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. John Matuszak played in North Dallas 40. The only thing with me was it was a lot of cursing, and I didn't want to do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the one thing about obviously being out there in Hollywood, you got those connections and whatnot. After your Raider career, and before I go there, what are your impressions or anything that you can talk to us about Mr. Davis? Your memories of Mr. Davis?
One of the best owners in the NFL. I'll tell you, it was a man that was at practice every day, and when you got a problem at practice, he want to talk to you. He walk up to you and he'll say, "You need to do it this way, do it way." But the thing with Al Davis, he was he was like a coach to us. He could tell you something going to happen would happen. So he was one hell of an owner, and I only played for him. But the thing about it is, I always thought he was a great owner, and he treated all the guys the same. He didn't overlook none of his players.
Yeah, great things to know. And again, nothing but props for Al Davis, being the fact that there are owners today, and they shall remain nameless, that want to be what Al Davis was, but you can't be. You gotta have the knowledge, the football knowledge, and there's no owner out there that has that football knowledge. And we'll never see another owner like Al Davis, that's for sure. Now, having said that, Otis, obviously you've kept up with the Raiders. What are your impressions of the transition from what John Gruden had last year and what he's doing this year? Give us a feel as a Raider, and you guys talk amongst yourselves. What's the general impressions of what's going on, and you guys talking as ex-players, give us some scoop at what y'all are saying behind the scenes.
Well, it's the only thing I could say. I don't, when I ran up on some of my buddies, we don't, some of the guys I played with at the Raiders, we don't talk football. We talk about the life. What are you doing now and how you taking care of yourself? The thing is with John Gruden, I think he didn't have a team that he wanted to have last year, but I guarantee you, I I was at the governor house with John and I talked to him, and he's a big Raider fan. And John will put that team together next year. People's going to be surprised when the Raiders come out this year. It's just like when John was on TV. He knows football, and he's going to put that team back together. And it's going to be just like in the '70s. The Raiders is going to roll.
Well, it's been a long time, and Raider Nation thirsts for getting back on top. The last time the Raiders were a great team, John was at the helm, and all of Raider Nation is looking for that to happen again. Now,
well, he got a long time to do it.
Yeah,
9 more years. I think John's going to put that team together, and I think they're going to roll for a while. And he had a good team. He just, if the guys listen to John, they're going to roll. If they don't listen to John, they're going to have a problem. John's a good coach.
And I take it that John, the other John, like I said, your John Madden, obviously from his books, he only had the 3 rules, be on time, kick ass when you get out there. And I can't remember what third one was, but you had the pleasure of playing for no nonsense coaches, and how that translates to the team is very important. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, well, the number one, John Madden. And John Madden used to say, we don't care if teams show up, they want to play it here on asphalt. We was ready to play. But the thing about it, John is a great coach, and, it's kind of tough to follow in John's shoes, but I think he could do it.
Well, I'm sure he definitely wants to do that. Now, Otis, was there any particular game that is the most memorable that you can? I mean, obviously the Super Bowl comes to mind, but is there like maybe a game against a rival that you remember more than anyone else in particular, or like a certain game other than the Super Bowl?
I think it would have to be against Baltimore or be against Kansas City. And Kansas City was my first year. And Baltimore was in the playoffs, but the Kansas City was, I think I got to the quarterback twice and then knocked the ball down, and we won 7-6. So Davis called me off and said, "Hey, great game. I loved that. That's the way so in Baltimore game, it was just a tough game. We played 6 or 7 quarters in the playoff game, and it was a tough game.
You're talking about the ghost of the post, the long pass to Casper, and I think the second overtime game, probably one of the more memorable games. So most definitely there.
Yeah, that's the game I'm talking about.
Right. And I did look up. You weren't just a super plugger and a tackler. I looked up. It says 3 interceptions for your career, 7 fumble recoveries, and also a safety. So you obviously were instrumental in putting some with the safety, definitely putting some points on the board. But not too many defensive players have interceptions and on the line.
Well, the safety was against Cleveland, and the thing about it is that it was just I just made a move and got to the running back in the end zone, and it was just hard work and dedication. That's what we used to put it in. And like I said, you had Willie Brown, and you had on defense, you had Gene Upshaw on offense, and they tell you, if you ain't doing the job, they're going to walk up and tell you you're not doing the job, so you got to step it up a couple of notches.
Okay, one second, folks. If you are on YouTube, you're good to go. If you're on Facebook, I tell you, for best volume and best sound, please go over to YouTube. I let folks know that the camera I have for Facebook is not my A camera. That's why I tell folks, please come on over to YouTube. You will have better sound quality and better picture quality. The link to the YouTube is on the above portion in Facebook. I apologize there, Otis. I'm monitoring both screens for you.
Okay.
And back to you. You're obviously when you left the NFL, you did have a bit of a film career as well, but obviously with you being a military member, I saw that you had some attachments, both obviously out of high school. Why don't you tell us about the folks out there that don't know about your connections with the military?
Well, the military, you talking about working or being in the military. I worked for the military for 35 years. Thing about it is that was my heart. Working for the military, I worked for the Army for 35 years, so I really enjoyed the military. I enjoyed the soldiers, and I enjoyed Marines, the Navy. Whatever come through and I had to deal with it, it was very good. But, the thing is that, I wish I'd have stayed in the military for 25 years, but, the thing about it was working for the military was a dream to me.
Well, if you would have stayed in the Marines, Otis, we wouldn't have been seeing you and enjoyed winning the silver and black, though.
Yeah, but I would have had that Marine uniform on.
I can see you as what is it? Master Gunnery Sergeant Sistrunk. I can see it right now, sir.
I got a friend that he was a master gunner. He lives in San Diego, and I'm going to see him sometime this summer. But he spent 30 years in the Marine. He's my buddy.
Well, like I said, as a retired chief, like I said, if you make it down to Florida, I'll be sure to take you around any of the bases that you want, sir, and we'll go into the Chiefs Club if I can find one around here. But unfortunately, down in Tampa.
Think about it is I don't like the Chiefs Club.
Oh, okay. Well, why is that there, Otis?
It cost me $900. I walked in the Chiefs Club in Virginia Beach, and I had my hat on. We just finished winning the Super Bowl, and I had a lot of friends that I was in the Navy in Virginia Beach, and I walked in, and the first time bell started ringing, I said, "What the hell is going on?" He said, "You just got a drink for everybody in the bar."
Yeah, never walk into Chiefs mess covered, Otis. I'm sure that your friend.
I learned my lesson on the Chiefs Club.
That's right. Well, we'll get you around to other spots that won't be as expensive, because I know the military members would love to see. In fact, I'll if you ever make it down to Florida, and I'll talk with the folks over where I work at the United States Central Command. Hopefully, we can maybe reach out to you, and you can come down and give your recollections to a bunch of troops, sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines in a joint command. It'd be fantastic. I'll get with you offline. Maybe we can make that happen.
Yeah, I would love to come and sign autograph for him. Come down there. It would make my day.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll do that as well. And I think the only other couple of things I have for you is you talked about your teammates, the Super Bowl. What are you doing now? What is the current Otis Sistrunk doing to keep himself active?
Okay, one of the things I started, I just changed my membership to the church here, and I'm doing a lot of things around the church. And I'm working with two other players played in NFL, Oliver Davis and Monk Johnson. And we're doing things with kids, 95 kids to the Super Bowl for the day before the Super Bowl from Georgia. We carried them up on two buses, and I'm just trying to help the community and stay out of trouble and help kids.
Well, I tell you, if you want to pass any of that information to me, I'll be sure to blast it. If there's any like I said, websites or things like that, go ahead and say it here, but also send it to me and I'll put it on my pages, and hopefully if we might be able to help out in that degree as well.
Yeah, I would like to go around the country now and meet some of the Raider Nation and sign autographs and be happy. And, I tell you, there's nothing, nobody could tell me we didn't have the best fans in the NFL. I tell you, we're losing. They are still Raider fans, and that's what I love about the Raiders. And when I go to California, now I'll be going to Vegas. So, it's great to be around the Raider Nation.
And I was going to say, the move to Vegas obviously getting the Raiders out of Oakland is a sad state for a lot of the folks there, but your thoughts of maybe bringing the Raiders to a new stadium that is deserving. The Raiders have deserved a brand new facility for so long. What are your thoughts on the Raider move to Vegas?
Well, I think it's a business move. I don't think the Raiders are trying to do something that hurt the fans there in the Bay Area because, like I said, I think they're the best. They're some of the best fans you want to run up on. I have a lot of friends that I've been knowing for 30-some years, and I get a call from a lot of folks there in Oakland. Want to know how I'm doing. How things all right. But so I think they're the best fans. They're going to lose a good team. If they move they're going to move to Vegas. And I think a lot of fans that live in Oakland are going to follow the Raiders to Vegas.
Well, I'm certainly hoping that that's true, and I hope that some of the hate and discontent goes away. I mean, I obviously knows that the folks in Oakland are upset about losing the team not once but twice, but true Raider fans will stick with the team, and I agree with you there. And Otis, I don't want to keep you on for too long, but is there anything else that we didn't cover that you might want to have a summation? Any final words for Raider Nation out there?
The only thing I say is this: when the ship starts to go down, don't jump off. Ride the ship all the way down. And I guarantee you the Raiders is down now. So stick with them. They're going to roll all the way and come back and win the Super Bowl.
Well, I tell you what, I know that we'll be very happy to hoist that Lombardi to be number 4, and obviously to have Mark do it, hopefully sooner rather than later, would be great. And I certainly appreciate your time here, Otis. And again, I'll get with you off video, and hopefully we can make things happen and make you have a trip down here to Tampa, where other folks will enjoy hanging with you as well.
All right, just let me know, and if they need me to come down to sign autographs, I'd be more than happy to do it.
Yes, sir. And obviously, if I see you at an event, just look for the old grizzled pirate, and I'll make sure that you know who I am, sir.
All right. I hope I can get a chance to meet you.
Oh, most definitely, Otis. And again, thank you for your time here, Otis. It's always a great pleasure, sir.
All right. Go Raiders.
Go Raiders. Thanks again, Otis.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye, sir.
All right.
All right, folks. That was an interview with Otis Sistrunk. I'm glad you had a chance to watch. And again, if you had a chance to go over to YouTube, we do these interviews every week. And I try to make sure I get players. Right now we're doing it on a weekly basis or semi-weekly basis. Next week, we're going to have Jim Tunney come on board. Jim Tunney was the actual referee for Super Bowl 11. He had 30 plus years, I think 31 years as an NFL referee, the great Jim Tunney. We'll get a chance to talk to Jim about that perception. And unfortunately, I forgot to ask Otis about how he perceives. Is there a perception amongst the officials, an anti-Raider presence? But gosh darn it, I forgot. But maybe I'll get a chance to ask him at another time. But for you all out there, I appreciate you coming aboard. And again, please go to YouTube and subscribe to the page. We have Raider Talk almost every Thursday with the Ask Captain Jack show. When the football season starts, that will move to Sunday. Okay? Regular sports talk, you can talk about anything: football, baseball, basketball, hockey. In fact, I was watching before I was here, the hockey going on. The Lightning are beating the Canadians 4-3. But we talk sports in the You Don't Know Jack About Sports show. That's currently on Sundays, but again, for football season, that's going to move to Thursdays. Okay, and Oh, I didn't realize you had a show, Tommy. I would be logged on as well. But no reason to apologize. But again, make sure you're here Wednesdays when I do my interviews with the players and professionals of sports in the Black Shield and Galleon Wheel podcasts and webcasts when they're live. Thursdays, right now, it's Ask Captain Jack, uh, Raider centric environment, Raider centric questions. And then on Sundays, right now, you don't know Jack about sports, please go to youtube.com. If you're here on YouTube, and I'm looking at you right now on YouTube, if you're here on YouTube, thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. If I'm looking at you right now, I'm looking at Facebook. Please go over to the YouTube page, Captain Jack Rackham Levy. Lots of fun, lots of entertainment, and we'll be getting it there all for you. I appreciate everybody coming on board. I tell you, if you want, I can do calls, but if I do calls right now, Tommy, then there won't be anybody calling tomorrow. So we'll probably end it here unless I see Tommy wants to call. If we got a couple other people that might want to call, I might take some calls, but I would rather do it tomorrow and do just this show where it's myself and Otis talking to you, and then we'll do some calls tomorrow. We do got lots to talk about, and I know that one day is not going to there you go. One day is not going to make it just so burning. Lots to talk about amongst Raider Nation. Again, thanks to you, to Otis Sistrunk, for joining me. I'm going to end this now, but again, if you're over on Facebook, please go to youtube.com, Captain Jack Rackham Levy. We're doing plenty of entertainment there. Better video, better volume. Go to YouTube. And pretty soon, I'm not going to be simulcasting anymore. It's going to be straight on YouTube. And again, for those that are already here on YouTube, thank you for coming aboard. Thank you to Mr. Otis Sistrunk. And again, next week, Jim Tunney will be on board here. We'll get a chance. Get your questions ready. If you want to talk to a longtime NFL official, that is your opportunity through the comments. Get your comments and questions ready for Mr. Jim Tunney. Y'all take care out there. Thank you for joining me. Be here tomorrow. We will do a Ask Captain Jack show tomorrow night. I said it. We'll do a show. Ask Captain Jack tomorrow, and then on Sunday, the You Don't Know Jack About Sports show. Make sure you're there, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific for both shows. It's always a great time here with the captain. Thanks again for coming here. Go on out there. Make sure people know about the shows, and we'll see y'all tomorrow, Sunday, and next week for another Black Shield and Galleon Wheel podcast, webcast. We'll see y'all. Take care. And go Raiders! Yar! And I'm going to live end it right here. Thank you, YouTube. Thanks for being here. Y'all saw the better quality sound and picture. Thank you for being here on YouTube. Get the folks out there. Tell them this is the place to be.